Hello, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my next guest is a well-known Canadian actress who shot to superstardom in the hit TV show The 100 on the CW television network in her role as Echo, a no-nonsense skilled warrior who rose to prominence in the 5th season. Her credits also include Kendra in DirecTV's Rogue, Danielle in BBC America's Intruders, and of course, fans of Tales with Tiara will most definitely know her from her role as Nat, the bums-in-seats loving GM of the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs. She is a cool cat, a great girl, an amazing actor, a fine friend, a kind Canadian. She's a leader for the ladies and rocks to the 80s. She's a friend to me and plays Echo on TV. She's a good-looking cat, and on Shoresy plays Nat. She can make a good rhyme and is generally on time. She's a no-show winner, and we've often had dinner. She can... Man alive! She's a voice in Far Cry 5. Folks, she's a model with talent, so don't get jealous. Now join me and welcome the great Tasya Teles. Tasya, how you doing?
Terry, I am doing so good. What an intro. Thank you. Holy.
Well, you deserve it. And that last thing, that little last nugget of information, Far Cry 5, had no idea. Playing it. So I was in Sudbury with you. It was like 3 or 4 days left, and I downloaded it, and I was talking with Mick D, and because really I knew what I wanted to ask you, but I said I'll do some light research on her and just some stuff that maybe I don't know about that she's done. I think we've talked about most of it, and I'm literally playing Far Cry 5, and I find out you're in it. That is wild. Before I get to anything else, I didn't want to lead there. Yeah. I mean, well, and I'll get into all that, but. To start, let's say this. It's nice to talk. Cheers.
Cheers, my dear.
And how has your time been since Sudbury? I suppose that would be about a week.
Yeah, I mean, it has been about a week. It's been about 6 days. It's been great. You know, we started filming when it was snowing and really cold, and now I'm back in Vancouver, Canada, and it is hot, and it's summertime.
Oh, it's beauty.
It's nice to be back.
I love it out west. And, you know, this time was a little different flavor. We didn't see you guys as much. Didn't you feel like, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And the last time we did the show, it was fall kind of going into winter. This time was spring going into summer. So it was a nice vibe. I guess we were staying at different places and stuff. But your experience this time was equally to be what?
It's great to have it be warmer when we're filming because, you know, Canadian winters can be tough. And so when you're, you know, trying to hang out with each other and stuff like that, there's no standing outside. There's no, you know, we got to like sit there with our doors open and our trailers and play music. Sanger was always playing his music really, really loud. I don't know if you noticed that.
I love it. You're a veteran, though, you've did so many things. You're an actual accomplished actress, and most of us are either in the rookie stages or just beyond that. How do you find our set? I'm curious. I've worked a lot of production, mostly here in Newfoundland, some stuff up in Toronto, but I'm usually, to this point, on crew or background. I do some stunts. But in your experience, you've been a leading lady a lot. How's our crew and cast?
I mean, it's a well-oiled machine. You know, these guys have loads of experience. They know what they're doing. They know what shots they want. Jacob knows what he's after. And the vibes are always really good. And one thing that I do really love is somehow Jared never seems too stressed, you know?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Like, he somehow seems super calm under all of, like, he's writing the show, he's show running the show, he's starring as the lead, and yet he's calm, cool, and collected throughout the day. So nice.
He's always on, like, he must, and equally, I mean, writing Letterkenny and everything else he has going on. Let's just say writing, without the acting, without the stunts, without everything else. It must be something to constantly be on a deadline. Like, I've had a deadline for a book, and it's like, oh, God, I got a month. But he's got, like, constantly writing episodes that, you know, let's just break it down to Letterkenny and Shoresy. And I know he has a lot going on, but people listen to this, and you and I are involved in that world. If it was
Mhm.
just limited to that, it'd be tough. But he's got a new baby, and like I said, he doesn't just write it; he acts, he does the stunts. Um, there's just a lot to unpack, and the guy doesn't seem stressed. In your experience, okay, and you've been around the block when it comes to like you really are creative arts. You're not just acting. You've got your foot in a lot of places. How how is your approach when it comes to like Tasya? We didn't get into it yet. You're part owner. You're an entrepreneur. Um, you've always been involved in the arts. What's your approach?
I mean, I try to immerse myself in the world as much as I possibly can. And for this, it was like I rely actually on our conversations, on conversations with you guys to really understand what's going on. What am I talking about? Especially with hockey, there's so many terms and lingo that I'm like, what does this mean? What am I actually saying here? And like
You're
chats
good
that I've
at it.
had with you specifically, and I was just listening to your podcast when I was getting ready. You were talking about like uh, going hard in those tough corners, those tough areas. Like you literally were saying things that were lines that I said in the show, and it was so refreshing to know that Jared is imbuing like real language into the show, and I have to speak to it as if that's my world and that's what I'm talking about. And so I'm always trying to like pick your brain and know
Yeah,
as
but
much about it as possible.
you do a great job. It's because you're a great actor. So, and I want to know about this. So, Tassia, and you are. I guess what I was getting at is that you pack a lot into that to one mind to do all those things. On top of it, be a business owner. I mean, if it was that alone, it's stressful unless you organize it and package it the right way. So, when you're younger, where did you grow up, Tassia? It was Toronto and out west in Edmonton. Was it Vancouver?
I was born in Toronto. I moved to
Okay.
Vancouver. I moved to Vancouver on my own when I was 5. So my parents moved to Vancouver. We moved to Vancouver when I was 5.
Okay.
And then I
Okay.
went to high school here, and then I went to college in Montreal.
Really? So when you high school, so here is Vancouver, and then
Mm.
you went to college in Montreal. What was the reason for that, and what did you do?
I mean, I went to university in Vancouver, but then I had some of my best friends, like some of my girlfriends, who were they went to Montreal, and they looked like they were having a blast. And I was just like, they came home after their first year, and their hair was different, their vibe was different, their clothes were different, and they were speaking different. They had a whole other thing going on, and I was just like, wow, what happened to you? What's going on? I need to be a part of this. So I
That's
basically
wild.
very impulsively like told my mom that I'm like, I'm going to Montreal. And so I applied to transfer, and I got into Concordia, and I got to Montreal, and I remember just walking through the streets of Montreal like, wow, this
Isn't it
is
awesome?
so incredible. Yeah, it's a really cool town.
You're younger than me. You're a few years behind me, but I experienced that at 18, 19, 20, and then well into my 20s. I went back, like I said, I hung out at Bonanotte well into my 20s. Even 30s. I don't think it's there anymore, but it hasn't been that long gone. And
Yeah.
I find out, for those listening, we're doing season 2, and I'm talking about my buddy Sheldon Surrey and I hanging out at Bonanotte way back in the day. And well, it
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago, I guess. And Tassia, you spent some time there as well.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
The
mean,
Habs used to come in all the time. It was awesome. We used to,
it was our favorite spot.
we used to know them. Pardon me.
It was our favorite spot to go. There's that whole area
I
there is Saint Laurent.
Very festive, very cool. Yeah. Yeah. It was a nice time.
So how did you get in? I'm curious. I don't know what came first. If it was art, modeling, acting. I bet you can play guitar. Like you just seem to be very artistic. So how did you like? Where did acting come? How far were you into your Montreal journey before you kind of took the road towards the thespianism?
Thespianism came from an early age. I was one of those kids that like I don't know what you were like, but like I was like bouncing off the walls. Like you could not like keep me in a seat unless actually I was like painting at an easel or there was some activities that really like focused me. But
Ah,
like I was,
so it might have
I
been
found,
therapeutic.
yeah, I found like I went through all these like a box of all of these old photos, and I found some report cards from when I was in kindergarten and preschool.
Really?
And it was like, Tasya spends most of her time at the easel or performing for her friends. And I was like, wow, I had no idea that I was doing that as a child. But my mom, like, signed me up for all the activities. I did ballet, gymnastics, soccer,
Good for her.
acting, all of the things. And then I ended up committing to soccer mostly. I was a soccer player. I played
Yeah.
competitively, and acting just kind of like fell into the background, but it was always stayed with me, and I always wanted to do it, and it never left me. And it was just bugging me and gnawing at me. And I went to school for finance.
That was my next question. That was my next question.
I
Like,
went to
because,
school for finance.
well, I thought I heard you right. We were eating somewhere, I don't know, one of these nights a month ago or wherever, we're at the keg or something, wherever. And you mentioned
Yeah.
finance. And I made a note to myself to ask you about that because, again, not to underestimate your finance or your mathematical, economical brain, but you just don't seem like someone that would jump right at finance. Now, meanwhile, you're clearly a business owner, so you must know what you're doing. But young Montreal artist moves there, does finance. I mean,
Yo, what's up,
was
guys? What's finance?
were you just doing what you thought could get you a job realistically, or
Well, I think that was maybe a part of it, but my parents were both professors and they're both very serious, and like they wanted me to go into like computer science because they were nerdy, and or engineering, and I was like, I don't know what that means, man. Like engineering, like what does that entail?
yeah?
And so then I was like, I did want to go into the arts, but I did know that like that I don't know where that degree is going to bring me, but looking back, I wish I had gone into the arts because I wish I just had more time to work on my craft.
Well, but
But
look,
I,
it led you to where you are now. You also
yeah,
know that doing what we do, a lot of people are fantastic and work hard. They do all the right things, but they don't get a break. I often think the same. I'm like, God, I wasn't even thinking about this in my early 20s. Soccer was on my mind, and or hockey. By the way, we do have a lot in common. I've heard you say that before, but my daughter, for example, doesn't know much about hockey. She couldn't skate very well, and I'm like, am I going to put her through this just because I played? And then everywhere we go, they're going to say, you're Terry Ryan's daughter, and they're going to expect her to get a hat trick every game. And I was like, it was kind of refreshing, and she liked soccer. I said, you're going to stick to something. But much like your parents, I put her in everything. I said,
mm,
hopefully you stick to a sport to learn team sacrifice, and I think those things will benefit you in the future, right?
very
And it
important.
even does on film set. Like hockey is always helping me out, and by me and my family and everybody directly involved with me every day. I mean, it really is. It pays the bills still indirectly, but you're very similar. So I know, like you say, you don't know the lingo a lot in hockey, but think of what I did. I was a athlete first. Then I was a Red Bull sales rep. I mean, there you go. There's your math. There's your finance. I didn't want to do it. I just got the job. And then found myself into this world. Very similar to Tasya. You have a parallel kind of a story with a few of us.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
soccer was important to you then.
Oh yeah, man. I'm Brazilian, right? So I'm half Brazilian. So my dad, like, as soon as I could walk, he was like, "Okay, you're good. Let's put you on a soccer team."
Oh,
Like right
Brazilian.
away,
I think they have the most
right
World
away.
Cups. That's true. Like people say Hockey Canada, it might even be more so soccer Brazil. They
Yes,
are passionate.
diehards, diehards. So
Wow. So you played, I know you were pretty good too. And I suppose, is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you take those attributes away from sports? Are you happy that you were an athlete and you played on a team?
oh my gosh, I think it's one of the most important things to do. I think it is profoundly important to put your kid in a team sport of some kind. And, there's times, of course, where you don't like it for whatever reason. You might get distracted or want to do some other thing. I remember when I was in high school, my dad really arguing with me because I discovered, like I wanted to flirt with boys now. And so that
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah.
interest of mine. and I wanted to leave the soccer team, or at least go down to one that was less competitive, because we were
Happens to a
training
lot of people. Yeah.
we were training all the time, and it was my life. And we just, my dad and I fought and fought and fought and fought, and he really pressed for me to stay on the sports team. And it was a saving grace. Like, looking back, I was like, thank you, Dad, for being so smart. And
if nothing else, I find, if I could break it down, I often wonder, like, how can I explain this, articulate it to someone that doesn't play or is asking me, should I put my daughter or son in this sport or that sport? I'm like, well, it puts you, even outside of the team stuff, which is the most important, I think, it puts you eye to eye with adversity a lot. Like, even though I remember being 13 years old and in the final, the Newfoundland hockey final, I knew I was a decent player, and I was on the all-star team. It was the next goal, whoever scored it would be lucky either way. I don't think it should have impacted my life now, but I felt so nervous taking a penalty shot, and I remember after thinking, like, wow, I've never been that nervous in my life. And if I didn't play the sport, if I was just home that day playing a video game or whatever, and I don't want to say, I'm not one that says video games are bad. I'm just saying there's other ways to spend time that are great, reading a book, whatever it might be. But I'm glad that I immersed myself into something. By the time you're 18, 19, and you're coming of age and you've played a sport, you've had to experience all that goes with winning and all that goes with losing, and ultra disappointment on a personal level, on a team level. And I think that's great. And now I'm rambling because of that.
Well, no. But I think there's something to be said about, like, you have your identity at school, and then you have your identity in a team, which is kind of a whole different thing. And I don't know who you were on your team, but I was, like, very much the rebel. Like, when they used to punish us by making us, like, run around the soccer field. And, like, so our coach used to be like, Tasya, like, Chantal, and this person, you guys are going. And I used to always be like, it's always me. It's always me. But, like, I was like the jokester. I was like the clown.
Yeah, that's good.
So, like, in that dynamic, it was a different feel than in school, which was just its own identity. So you got to, like, be around other people and have kind of a different sense of self outside of school and home, which was nice, And
it's
then,
a great way to put it.
Like, being on a team, learning about passing, learning about teamwork, losing together, winning together. It's a different experience, I can imagine, than, like, dance or gymnastics, which might be,
like you said, the two identities coming together. I really like that. I've never heard anybody articulate it that way, but that's true. You've got that self-identity and the team identity, and I suppose in the big moments, you got to blend those two as best you can. Yeah, there you go. A Tasya Teles quote that I'll never forget. There you go, a proverb of sorts. Listen, I don't want to skip over anything, but I don't know what happened after Concordia and before acting. Like, did you get into it? I mean, finance, you don't go from finance to playing Echo. So immediately, where did you go from Montreal?
Here's the quick bridge. The bridge. So I was taking finance. I was staying up all night in the library, as one does, writing math equations, and I just remember being like, oh my God, I don't know. This is a lot. It's a lot of work. What am I doing? Where is this leading? There was self-doubt. It felt a little, I mean, university isn't necessarily supposed to be easy, but it really felt like I was pushing against the grain. And so I took an art class to kind of have an easy A. I'm like, this will be an easy A. I'm going to go, actually, that painting, or that I made that in my art class. In 2007, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And then I was like, I'm going to take another art class, and then another art class, and then I'm like, I'm going to take an acting class. And I took an acting class, and I walked out, like, you should have seen, like, the doors, like, swung open, and it felt like birds were out, and, like, the color of the world, it was just different.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is what I meant to do this. And I called my mom, and I was like, Mother, I'm dropping out of finance, and I'm going to be an actress. She was like, Jesus Christ, Tasya. And that was her response. And it was like,
I'm sure that sentence does give a lot of parents the willies, though. It worked out.
Can you imagine?
I can. I
She was like, slow down.
yeah.
Um, so she's like, take a minute. She's like, first of all, you're almost done your degree, so don't bail on it now.
Mm.
Finish and then sure, yeah, try acting. And I don't think she ever really anticipated that it was going to kind of work out for me.
So, for those listening in Canada and outside, I don't know if everybody realizes just how much of a hub for the film world Vancouver is. There's a lot going on in Vancouver by anybody's standards, by Hollywood standards. There's a lot going on. Now, did you go back and act there because you were pursuing your craft, or did you just go home and figure, yeah, if anything comes along, I happen to be in St. John's. There's lots going on here. I don't know if I lived in Flin Flon that I would have made the decision to go home. I probably would have moved somewhere like St. John's. So how about you?
Yeah, well, initially I was looking in Montreal to see if I could find acting classes there, and then I couldn't really find very many. So I looked to Toronto and Vancouver. I ended up deciding on Vancouver, and I said to myself, I made a deal with myself. I said, Tass, you just spent 4 years studying math. You have your degree, and also the stock market crashed. So it was 2008 when I graduated,
Yeah.
2009, and I was like, okay, so maybe this is an opportunity to look at something else, because nobody was hiring a fresh graduate. So I was like, I'm going to give myself 3 years, and I'm going to study my face off, and I'm going to study with all the best teachers, and I'm going to really work as hard as I can, because if you could do math all night in a library all year, then you can try, doing what you love all year until
Yeah.
late night. So I came home with this kind of, and I treated it kind of like sports also. Like, I was like, you have to get up, you have to train every day, even if you're tired, even if you don't want to, even if, you have to do it. You can't be lackadaisical. So I had a really committed attitude coming into
Good.
it. And I was like, okay, there's learning about theater, there's learning about camera technique, there's learning about voice, and I went technical. I wanted to learn as much as I could.
Interesting. I
And
didn't know this. That's really
yeah.
interesting.
And then so
Okay.
after 3 years, I was like, I graduated from my self-imposed acting degree. And I decided, I was like, okay, here it goes. And I went to get an agent and found an agent, and I had one audition, and then I had another, and then another, and another. And then it just started like rolling really quickly thereafter.
Interesting.
So,
Was your
yeah.
agent from Vancouver or Toronto?
Yes, it was.
Oh,
Vancouver.
so
Still with him today.
that's deadly. I have a question. So, at any point while you were doing that, were you doing any theater?
I always train in theater because theater is the rock of acting. If
Ugh,
you can survive on a theater stage, you can survive anywhere. It's
that's what I
really
think, and I
important.
want to do this, Tasya. It really takes me out of my comfort zone at some point
Exactly.
because I look. You and McD tell me these stories, and I've gone here, and Alan Hocko's a buddy, and I've gone to see him in is it Can Stage Theater in Toronto, and I like going to watch plays. I can't imagine it. And when I say I'm an actor, I almost feel like an imposter because I haven't done that. Until I do that, I don't want to I can't say the words because it's one thing to do it in front of a camera, especially when I'd done so many interviews and stuff before and like played myself in a commercial. I'm not saying that acting ever came easy, ever, but I don't, it's because that's a terrible way to put it. But I had an easier time anxiety wise in front of a camera because at least I'd seen that before than thousands of, or even hundreds or whatever, or 10 people. I mean, I've done stand up in front of 10 or 15 people and been
Done
nervous.
stand up. Good for
Oh,
you.
again, gun to my head, I opened for Jerry D, if you can believe it. But again, I had a book come out. I was writing something with him, so I tried it. I do some public speaking, but I can't imagine acting in front of a crowd. I mean, can you describe the differences?
Oh man, I mean, it.
Got to be more nerve wracking, no?
Yeah, you can feel so naked. Like, when it doesn't go well, it does not go well.
I can
Does not
imagine.
go well. Um, but the thing is, it also kind of gives you this, for me, anyways. Like, there's something nice about immediate feedback because when it's going well, there's nothing that feels more, you feel alive. Like
Yeah.
there's something about being on stage, the electricity, and like when you're like, you know, connecting with the other actors on stage and everything is cooking, you just feel like you're just right in that hot seat. And it is such a good feeling. And it's a true
Yeah.
test. It's a test.
So what
Because
happens if you like if you screw up, you just keep going and you just got to bury it and you got to get used to that because like a director you could technically not do your job great in front of a camera and the director could have to go 50 times. That might be an extreme, but whoever it might be might give you, so they can get the best product out of what you brought to the table that day, even though you're drunk and hungover. Why did I say
yeah.
that? I don't come in drunk or hungover, but you know what I mean. I do take it seriously, but I'm just saying you don't have second chances. So what do? Do you just, because you must sometimes stutter or get a line wrong and you just keep going and put your head down and,
Going.
people must be used to it that are going to the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way to sharpen, like it sobers you up really fast. So yeah, you
Ah,
have to keep going, and then you also like if the people that you're on stage with like know like they try to help you out. There's little things that you can do to help out your pals on stage, but um yeah, I'm actually thinking about doing a play this year just because I'm like, I need to get back out there, man. It's because it really is, Al Pacino, like all the great actors, they always go back to theater. So though you'll see them on Broadway in New York and you'll see them all over. Like people who are really good in movies and film on the silver screen, they go back to theater. Or
yeah, I
Jacob
noticed
Tierney
that.
is based in theater as well. Like it's important. It's an important
I would
skill.
love to try it sometime. It's, put it this way, when I'm watching a play or go to anything, I can't even think of one specifically. There's so many, and I love that about Toronto as well. Like there might be some in a bar on Queen West. You go in, and there's 30 people sitting down, and they're watching some Chekhov play. Or I really actually have done that, but I find it, like you said, invigorating. I find it way more satisfying as a viewer than I do watching a
Yeah.
movie, even though I like movies. But it's a different experience. I suppose it would be
Well,
the
what
same.
they say, I mean, going to like bad theater, like there's nothing worse than going to like, where you're just like, where you kind of want to leave, but you can't because like, it's a
Oh
big
yeah,
theater. But when you go to like good theater, there's something very raw and real and authentic. And the vibrations from the voice that like just sends chills through your
good Lord,
being.
you could be an agent. You've convinced me. You've convinced me. That could have been a commercial. Hey, Tasya, how about this? I said Chekhov on Queen West. It popped into my head. I went there one day with Jim Cuddy. Jim Cuddy is one of the founders of Blue Rodeo. Jim, his wife, she did a play, okay, and it was about Anton Chekhov was a Russian writer, a poet amongst other things, and he wrote these letters to his mistress, and so they were doing it. I forget the place, but it was Squirrelies or one of those. It was Queen West, King West, around that area. And anyway, we went in, and I made sure to turn off my phone, and it was really emotional. It was like it was just two of them, and it was really emotional. And you know what I do? I turn off my phone, but in my pocket, I turned it on accidentally because it hit my. And when it came on, all the messages that were sitting there waiting. Can you imagine? They were on stage like people were crying, and they were on there. And Jim, I'm sure he must have been absolutely. He says now he laughs at it, but I'm sure he was just wanted to dig a hole and jump in. My phone started to go off, and I threw it. The exit door, it was warm, so it was open, and I threw it, and it hit the side of the door. It didn't go out, and it just kept ringing on the ground. And it was giving me all my messages. It was, you know what I mean? It was message alerts. It wasn't just like happened to go off. Oh yeah, it was horrible. Horrible.
Light the lamp during the hockey playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can make a $5 bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. With the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can bet on things like money line, puck line, over/under, and more. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with promo code THPN. New customers can make a $5 hockey playoff bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for complete offer details. Let's face it, with coffee starting at $5, yes, even without any customizations, and our bank accounts somehow always depleting, we are officially entering a dupe session. Most products do the same thing, but are priced differently, solely based on the brand name. So a good duplicate, or dupe, is crucial for getting the highest quality at the best price. One dupe that you definitely shouldn't sleep on are Raycon wireless earbuds. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can listen to what you want, when you want, all without breaking the bank. Spending less on earbuds means you don't have to worry about breaking the bank, and are a great entry point if you're looking for your first pair of high-quality wireless earbuds. Raycon's mission is to prove that you shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg for quality sound and essential smart tech listening features. You can get a pair and a spare and still pay less than you would with some of those other more big-name tech brands out there. Raycon knows that in this economy, every purchase needs to be perfect. They offer buy now, pay later options, and right now you can pay as low as $18 at checkout. Plus, they have an easy and free return guarantee. Still not sure? They offer 2 years of product protection insurance for just a few extra bucks, and they offer free domestic shipping and flat fee international shipping. But don't just take it from me, Raycon has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and it's easy to see why when you look at their great features like noise isolation and 8 hours of playtime with their everyday earbuds. Plus, if you're looking for earbuds that you can wear at the gym, Raycon's earbuds are water and sweat resistant. Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN.
But enough about me, yada, yada, yada. I want to know this because a lot of people are going to want to know, and I'm really interested. You fascinate me in so many ways. But there's two things I want to know about. I want to know about Echo and the Parlor and your whole business adventures and what took you there. But a lot of people obviously are in love with the 100, okay? I'm thinking that's probably the biggest role that you've played. You're a young actor with the world at your fingertips, so I'm sure there'll be a lot more. But right now, I know when I mention Tasya Teles, a lot of people say, oh, I watch Echo. She's my favorite. I watch the 100. I have a tattoo. It's that world. If you're into it, you're really into it. So how did you come? I guess was it just a regular audition? And when you became Echo, what do you see, Tasya, as what do you see in yourself that's in Echo? Echo's a no-nonsense warrior type of person. I know that if I was to play a gay tennis player, I would really have to step out. I don't know where I would start. I guess I got athleticism in common. I don't mean to, but if I was to play, like when I play a criminal, a badass crook, I mean, I can find that in me. I got in hockey fights. There's things in me that seem rather evil, or at least awkward or uncomfortable. I can get it. But and I see them. What do you see Echo as echoing Tasya?
Oh, there's a lot of funny things that started happening throughout that journey playing Echo. But I remember I got the audition, and they auditioned me for so many roles, and I got to the point where I was like, they either want me or they don't. Why do I keep on coming back in for so many different characters, and I'm just not able to bag a character? And I was just I was getting a little frustrated, to be frank. I was like,
Yeah.
I really love this world. I don't know. I'm getting it right to the very end, and then I wouldn't get the part. And then so I get another audition. It's for Echo, and I read it, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. And I'm reading, and then there's a moment where she like looks at Bellamy, the guy in the scene, and she identifies him, and then she like just spits in his face, like out of nowhere. As a greeting, she's like, and I was like, oh, she's sassy. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and then I got immediately intrigued. I was like reading, and I'm like, okay, let's read, and I got like hooked. And I was like, I like her. She's like, there's something.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
spicy.
yeah.
And
That's
so,
what I mean. Like, I worded that the wrong way, but sometimes I see a character, and if I can see a shade of me in the character, yes, right then I can
yeah,
really hone that. Some people have the ability to play something completely different, and maybe I'll get there someday. But I love when I see a character. That's why I asked, because I do see that, and I bet you that moment when you realized, oh, okay, I got a little bit of echo inside. Now, do you go to Comic-Con and stuff for this? I know that really
yeah.
took off, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, the fans must be big time fans. Like
They're
they
amazing. I mean, it's one of the great joys of my life was like I had no idea that like the relationship that one can create and um participate in and live with the fandom. Like I have long-standing friendships with people who've watched the show and followed the show, and we've communicated since they were younger, and we've been in contact all throughout their high school and into university, and now we're talking and they're in their careers. It's like a beautiful thing that
yeah.
being an actress brought that I never really thought about before.
And playing that role, it's so like Echo is so.
Fierce.
I don't. She identifies with a lot of people. Okay, a lot of people identify with her, I should say.
Ooh,
It's a very intriguing character that magnetizes oneself.
She
I
is
mean,
no nonsense. No nonsense.
so
No,
I mean,
no.
you got to, yeah, it's fantastic for you. So you got to do that, and I won't go through every role. You've been very successful in the acting world, and then how did Shoresy come into play? I mean, same sort of thing, I guess. But did you realize what you were getting into? For example, did you know what Letterkenny was? And were you like, okay, were you a hockey fan? Like, Shoresy, did it come out of nowhere? And how did you identify with Nat?
Oh my gosh. Shoresy did come out of nowhere to some extent. It was right after the lockdown, shortly thereafter, like film was just kind of getting back. Nobody knew what was going to happen with film because I mean, it's such we were hearing that the writers were writing scenes differently so that, people like the actors didn't have to like touch the same object on the set or like be too close to each other. So it became really like bizarre. And we were like, how do you act with, I don't know. It was such a weird time. And I remember feeling like really kind of worried and confused about the where the industry was going because nobody knew what was happening at the time. And I got a phone call from my agent, and he was like, Jared really wants you for this role of Nat for their new show Shoresy. It's a spinoff of Letterkenny, and I am a big Letterkenny fan. Like I just love what they do. I've always have. Like I was so immediately I was intrigued. I was like, yes, like tell me more. And they sent me the script, and I was reading it, and I remember reading Nat's lines, being like, "What is she saying?" Because one of the lines is, "You got pumped five goose for the 20th, like you got 20th loss of the campaign." Like there's like, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. Something to do with a party squeezer at Wasaga Beach. I was like, "What's Wasaga Beach? Party Island? What's going on here?"
In your defense, oh God, I know what you're talking about. In your defense, honestly, that wouldn't be fluent for a lot of people, even that play hockey. There was a lot of slang.
Have you not had that experience when you read the script? Like, do you always feel like you know what's going on?
No. Honestly, sometimes, and to be honest with you, the first year going in reading it was a lot different than this year. I found it was because this year I could picture it in my head. I had imagery. Like the first year, all I kept thinking was Letterkenny. I'm a fan too, so it really and Shoresy isn't like Letterkenny. I mean, it is in some ways, but you know, there's a lot different about it. Certainly, the linear story and the way we act in it, and
Yeah.
we there's a rhythm to what we're saying. But in Letterkenny, often it's like I don't know, it's fast, and it's almost a series of skits that could be on Saturday Night Live, or a sketch comedy program. I don't know why I said Saturday Night Live, but it's almost but where Shoresy, you know, got that linear story, and you're coming in and out of Shoresy's life and everybody that comes into contact with him. I really do. I'm not just saying it because you're a friend and you're an actor in the show with me, but I think you do a great job. So at some point you must have said, well, I do identify with this person. And outside of the lingo, I mean, the way that you talk to Shoresy is unlike I think anybody else talks to him on either show. I could be wrong, but I think, you know, outside of Laura Moore, maybe.
They have like this. I mean, Laura Moore and Shoresy have a little bit more of like a
Well, there's
flirtation.
that, but I think he respects you both in a way that maybe he doesn't. It's just me, what
Yeah.
I see, but you know,
Shoresy and
you
Nat have mutual respect, and they'll both throw themselves. You know, they're so committed to the success of this team. And I think in the first season for Nat, that kind of took her by surprise because she was ready to fold. She was like, I don't know what's going.
yeah,
I don't
good
know
point.
what to do here. She inherited it from her mom. And then I think she just started to fall in love with it. You know, she started to, and then in the second season, you start to really see like Nat knows there's a business quality to her that I totally respect and identify with for sure.
You
Yeah,
definitely
she
do. And speaking of that, one of my favorite places in Toronto is the Parlor. Okay. And the first time I went there, I had no idea. What are the odds? But the day before I met you, I was there. I went to a Leafs game and went to the Parlor. And since, I mean, I showed you some of the messages. I can't make this up. All kinds of people, like from my crowd and outside of, uh, you know, send me messages, hang out at the Parlor. I'm like, yeah, you won't believe this. Like, one of the girls who runs it is my friend Tasya. So how did you get into that? It's one thing to be an entrepreneur, but restaurant from acting. I mean, I
yeah,
guess I associate it with the roots of it. Like when you're starting out, lots of people maybe got a job as a waiter or a waitress, and then they become, you know, a successful actor or something in the field. But you got there, and you not that you didn't go through a time and put in your time before acting and working, and obviously you're a hard worker, but you decided to get right back into it and get into the ownership side of things. Why and how did it come about?
well, so I always wanted to have my own restaurant. I don't know necessarily where that came from, but I remember being like in high school, 16, 17, 18, and I remember going to this restaurant with my mom. It was called Global in Vancouver, and it was brand new, and he's from Toronto, and he's like, oh, you know, how's your experience? And I was like, oh, it's amazing. And my mom was like, Tasya wants to open her own restaurant, and I was like, yeah. And it was just one of those things that I always wanted to do, and I don't know why that is. I think it's a love of food, it's a love of kind of festive environments, you know, celebrating with friends, that the coming together of people. And so when I was in university getting my finance degree, well, you have to write business plans all the time. And so all my business plans were of restaurants. I was like, and so here's this business plan of this concept. So I was just writing concepts for different restaurants
Oh,
over and over and over
interesting.
again. And then when I moved back to Vancouver to study acting, I ended up meeting a boy, and he also wanted to open up a restaurant. He was in the kitchen side of things. He was working on a business plan, and I was like, "Oh, well, funny. I
Wow.
have several business plans." Um, and I felt that Vancouver needed a little piece of Montreal in it, and so it was, you know, this concept was heavily influenced by my time in Montreal, and
Okay.
we got together
Thought
and we
so.
built it together, and yeah.
Unbelievable that when I went in there first, I didn't know it was yours. I was with my buddy Turan Sam, who I played pro hockey with. And I said, geez, doesn't this kind of give you that vibe, the Bonanote vibe? I swear to you. Like, and not in any way that it was just like it's got that same, it's a totally
We
different spot,
have
but
to
I like
go
how,
together.
well, the music gets loud and it's a really vibey, cool, it gets louder as the night goes on, you know, and it goes from I'm enjoying this plate of pasta with some wine to like, okay, Let's have some Jameson and maybe boogie a little bit. And I like that. I really like that. Look, I don't want to bother you too much longer. I just got some easy questions I usually call rapid fire randoms. Are you good with that?
I'm good. Hit me.
Here we go. Tasya Teles, rapid fire randoms. The first rapid fire random. Am I saying that right? Teles
Yes.
or Teles?
No. Tell us.
Teles. Okay, that's what I thought. Death row meal. You've just gone and you didn't like the script. You went in, you lost your mind, you chopped off Jared's head, and now you're a murderer. And they just brought in the death penalty. So what are you gonna? You're on death row. What are you gonna have to eat? Last meal.
I'm gonna have a chasse pêche. I'm gonna have a steak and a lobster.
Wow. Okay. Big time. Spoken like a
Baked
true.
potato, lots of butter. I'm gonna have a side of chimichurri sauce just for fun, and then I'm gonna have like every single dessert that you can ever imagine. Like
Why not?
leaning towards chocolate.
Do you
Everything.
think anybody really, do you think anybody ever sat down to their last meal like that and said, you know what, fuck it, and really enjoyed it? Wouldn't be hard. This isn't part of your questions, by the way. I'm speculating. Wouldn't that be odd to digest? Like literally that I'm going to eat this and I love it. And they're giving me what I want because they're going to kill me tomorrow. I just find it. And how far is it?
What's your meal?
Yeah. Me,
Yeah, I could also go very dirty.
Do you
Part
know
of me
what
wants to like a burger or like a grilled cheese and like ketchup kind of vibe, you know?
The first time I went to Montreal for camp, I was 18 years old. Okay, it was 1995. I'd been in Newfoundland, Quesnel, BC. Not when I say I went to BC, people often think, "Oh, you're down in Vantown." No, I was in Quesnel, Milltown up north. No 3-star restaurant. Love Quesnel, but there's not. I wasn't very cultured up there. And then I went to Tri-Cities, a small little U.S. town, nice enough, quaint, but by the time I got to Montreal, I just never had seen any big-time concerts, let alone, I was 6 beers if I ever drank, pasta out of I won't say out of a can, but just really, really simple stuff. Here's the sauce, here's the pasta, right? So I went there. I couldn't believe the culinary experiences I was having. First time I had red wine at a meal, any wine really, but I like the red. And I went in to Weinstein and Gavino on Crescent Street, and I ordered tortellini rosé. And I'd never heard of it. One of the guys on the team recommended it. It's just tortellini with rosé sauce. But I absolutely loved it. I had the chicken polo pizza and some wine, Cabernet, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I had it 14 days in a row. That was at camp, every single day at camp before I got sent down. And so that would probably be what I chose.
Now that you mention it, you said pizza. I'm like, okay, pizza. Oh man, that opens up a whole lot. The problem is I love food. I want to eat. I would see how far I can make my last meal go. I try to have like a buffet style
It
situation.
should be last week. I think I'd give it, even though these are dirty motherfuckers that fucked over, I don't know what they did, each and every one of them. I wouldn't want to take it case by case. Just give them a week. I don't want to, just give them a week of eating what they fucking want. They're going to die anyway. What's the difference? Right?
Perfect.
Superpower. You got one superpower. What would you pick?
Invisibility or flying.
Okay. Invisibility or flying. 2 extreme superpowers. Elastic Man, it's one thing to be able to stretch your arm out. It's one thing to be able to run real fast like the Flash, but invisible and flying could put you in some pretty unique places. You're a DJ, okay? You quit everything. You're a jack or a Jill of all trades, let's say, and you can do all kinds of different things. Obviously, the next thing that you're going to do, Tasya Teles, is become a DJ. Everything else goes out the door. From here on in, you have to pick one of these names. You're a DJ. Techno Tass, TT Funk, Sassy T, or Madonna 2.
Ooh, I have to go with TT Funk.
TT Funk. I like that. That's my favorite. Sassy T's all right, but TT
I know,
Funk.
I was going to go with Sassy T as well, but like, it was between the two.
Every time you leave your house to go to the club the rest of your life, or say to, go to dinner on the way to the club, every time that you're going out and you leave one establishment to go to another, it's going to play a song. What song do you want played? Just in general, like song, like you're in a movie soundtrack. It's just going to come on.
Oh man, that's a great question.
Would it be Total Party, like Pink, Get the Party Started? I'm Coming Up.
I mean, my mind went to like some Curtis Mayfield classics, but like, I was like Pusher Man, and I was like, no, I'm not sure that that's exactly I mean, it's
It's got a good vibe to it. The lyrics don't have to match. What would I pick?
I was going to say, what would you pick?
Me?
I mean, I'm a big fan of trumpets, so I feel like what's the?
I'd go Get Lucky by Daft Punk.
Ooh.
There you go.
There you go.
A little bit of Daft Punk for you.
And on that one.
And maybe an AC/DC classic. AC/DC, boy, they don't have any real slow. It's like the Stones rock, but they got like Angie and a few more. Every band, Def Leppard, slow it down a little bit. Love Bites. Fuck AC/DC. Just every fucking song is just wild, in your face, rock out, thrash. So you shook me all night long. There's another one.
That's a good one. I mean, it depends like what kind of dance moves I'm trying to pull up. Like what's I don't
what
know.
kind of mood would you be in, I suppose? Yeah. Why limit it to one song?
No.
Did you give one, or do you want to come back to that?
I'll come back.
Okay. Favorite TV show ever?
Arrested Development.
Wow, that's my favorite TV show ever.
Really?
We haven't talked about this. And I was asked today. I went on Jason Greger's show, who's a sportscaster in Edmonton, and he asked me who I'd love to have on my podcast. I said, well, realistically, I had the same agent as Wayne Gretzky, so in the hockey world, I could have kind of climbed Mount Rushmore when I was 14. I mean, I met him back then. So even though I have a lot of respect for hockey players, in my mind, they're all possible that someday I'll at least meet, maybe even get on my podcast, if it goes that way. But Job, Will Arnett, who plays Job Bluth, I'm like, he loves hockey. I found that out recently. He's Canadian. It's my favorite show ever. I think he's possible, and hopefully someday he will hear these sentiments. Maybe he probably watches Shoresy if he's Canadian. He loves hockey.
We're putting those vibes out there, man. We're putting them out there. It'll happen.
We're putting them out there. Have you ever played an instrument?
Piano. And guitar really badly. Really poorly.
But still, that doesn't surprise me.
There's a piano.
Do you have a piano?
Yeah, it's right behind me.
Interesting. I knew the answer was yes. You get to live to 125, okay? There's conditions, but first of all, if you want to. But in this world, you don't look bad. You look like 70 until you're 125. So you're offered, you can live to be 125, but your name, you got to go with the name Big Mama Fuck, and you have to get your face tattooed like a soccer ball, but that's after you're 80. So from 80 to 125 is 45 years, and you got to live with your face looking like a soccer ball, and your name is Big Mama Fuck. Or you just live out your life. You can take that option if you want, and
your health and your vitality is the same. You just look like you have a soccer ball head, and you have a big mama.
You're as healthy as a 70-year-old can be from right up until 125.
I'm taking it.
I think I am too, because at 80, 90, what do you expect to look like? A soccer ball's probably good.
I'm gonna be weird. I'm gonna be walking down the street in neon clothing when I'm 70 or 80 anyways. People are gonna notice me when I'm cruising, So,
I totally believe that. What's the weirdest food you've ever eaten?
Scorpions.
Where did you eat scorpions?
In China.
Really?
Of
course.
My mom, she brought me, anyways, like China on she was speaking at a University of Beijing. They're bringing all these dishes out, and there's a big, kind of dinner, and all these people from the University of Beijing were there, and then, they brought out, turtle and snake and all of this, and I remember I'm, 16, so I'm like, I don't know what to do, I don't want to eat this, and my mom just gave me that look. She was like, you are eating this and that's the end of it. And then they brought out the scorpions, and I was like, okie dokie, here we go.
Fuck, you got some good stories.
Here we go.
Name something good about O.J. Simpson.
He was a great athlete.
There you go. I think that's what I would have gone with. But, who knows? I'm not trying to give him props. I just, he's good at something. He was definitely a good athlete. How much coffee do you drink?
0.
Really?
Yeah.
Tasya
I used
Teles.
to drink epic amount. I used to drink liters a day, and I had to switch. I'm on tea now.
Yeah, I drink too much. Do without one of these things. We're almost done, by the way. Pizza and pasta, hats, or jeans. You got to pick one of these things never to associate with again. Pizza and pasta as a combo, hats, or jeans.
Oh, man.
I know,
What?
3 things. They're all, I know.
What
I
would
specifically
you...
picked those because you have good style, so I know I know just from knowing you have all kinds of great hats and jeans. And I mean, pizza and pasta. I know that
How do you
ordered.
live without jeans? How do you live without jeans?
I don't know. Well, you got to pick one of it.
Oh man, pressure's on. I think I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with jeans.
I think because hats is kind of impossible. You can't really go through life without a hat. You want to?
I mean, maybe
I guess you could if you want to wear a hood. Just there's so much weather and you got long hair.
Just wear a visor.
Well, I suppose you could get around it that way. And lastly,
I would love to see a visor, Perry.
Well, I know, but I'm running the competition, and I say visor is a hat. So
okay.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to give up pizza and pasta in this hypothetical world. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
All time, your 3 or 3 of, because your definite 3 would be hard. It's all subjective. Favorite actors ever.
Ooh.
Or if you want, you can go 2 actors and a role model. It's up to you. For me, God. The actors that honestly that I've probably absorbed the most off of are you and McD. Because of all of us, I mean, I'd done some acting before Shoresy. A lot of it's stunt. And I knew because I was crew for so many years, I had a little bit of a jump start on the other guys. But you guys actually were, you were artistes of your craft. And you really did. You don't even realize how much you helped me with the remembering lines and stuff, too. I remember you came in and you coordinated, you and McD, you had everybody in the room, and you said you're going to remember it if we go over it and go over it. And when I was going over it, you gave me some hints about my own lines, how to remember them and stuff. And it still sticks with me, and it made it way easier. Little things like that. Who do I actually look up to? Who do I love? Like Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, as far as their movies and what they've done in them. I would those probably would be my favorites. And if it came to a woman, definitely Audrey Hepburn. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so we can go with people that are alive. I mean, I would love to just meet and know Morgan Freeman in general.
Great.
A solid person. I would love to work with Leonardo DiCaprio. I would love to work with, Emma Thompson is one of the actresses that made me really in love with acting. That there was this one scene in Love Actually where she discovers this locket, and then she has to go to this recital, and she goes through like all of these emotions where she's hiding her pain, and she has to rally and get the kids out, and she just took you on this amazing journey in like this really small space of time, and she did it so masterfully. I was just like, wow,
I love that
And
I can tell that you absorb a lot of what you look up to. I know you
Vanessa
every
Redgrave.
time when you've explained acting, theater acting, Emma Thompson, you have a passion about it when so part of I don't know what the correlation is, but I find a lot of people that are creative artists find a hell of a lot of passion in watching others do the same thing. Emma Thompson's a great example. Not a lot of people talk about her as one of the greats, but she is. And I know the scene you're talking about. I haven't seen the movie in a while, but it'll give me the reason, more and more reason to go watch. Anything
like
else? Do you have anything to plug?
Season 2 of Shoresy. It's coming up
Yeah.
this September.
What do you think? Think people are going to laugh?
Yes. Did you not laugh when you read the script? I had
Yeah, well,
so much fun rereading and reading the scripts. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe some of the jokes that he put in there were so daring.
I know.
I was like,
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I laugh more reading the second one, but again, because I knew everybody. Like, so when I read your lines,
yeah,
now I could put a person and a personality to it, right? And so I don't know if it was just me coming back and expecting what's already happened, and finding humor in that, or if everybody else is going to, like, could you watch this and find it funny regardless? I think so. It felt hilarious
I
to
think
me.
so too.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a couple of scenes we were in. At the beginning, when I said we didn't see you as much, I just meant because I went to Toronto. I didn't mean on set. I meant I went to Toronto a couple of the weekends that you guys partied. But on set, when we were in, oh, God, I don't want to give anything away here, but do you remember we were all there? Goody was up getting his picture taken, and you guys and Shoresy walks in, and we're kind of on the side, and we
Oh,
get
yeah.
caught in a crossfire of commentary. Oh God, to me, I'm glad that I was in the background for a lot of that because I couldn't stop laughing. It happens to all of us at some point, but I was shaking inside, like my eyes were watering and everything. I was shaking.
Do you
I
have a
found that so
trick?
funny.
Do you have a trick yet of how to not laugh in the
You know
scenes?
what I?
Because sometimes I feel like there's beads of sweat that are like forming, and I'm just like trying to hold gaze and
Yeah.
not break, and it's so hard. You just have to stay. I
Well,
feel like I don't
what happens to me? I try to think of something to take my mind off it, right? So I'm dead serious. During those scenes, I was thinking of Mark Messier is a hockey player, used to play for Vancouver actually, and he used to have this commercial, Lay's, bet you can't eat just one. And he would eat the one chip and right?
remember
And
that.
remember those commercials? And
Yeah.
so but see, so I'll try to think of a random commercial or another thing, Michael Jackson Thriller. I don't know why these things pop into my head. So I'll start following along with the commercial in my head. So as not to really break character, but that way I ended up forgetting my lines then. So I find it a really hard
I try
place.
to look. Sorry, what?
Oh, I end up forgetting my lines a lot when I do have a way that I deal with not laughing, but that way also makes me forget what I'm fucking doing in the first place. I find it really hard. Go ahead.
I tend to look like I try to like my gaze will drift to like an earlobe, or like I try to like I can't stay with eye contact because that makes it worse. So I'm just like I try to focus on like somewhere else, like on their face. Just
That's a
like
good point. That's a good way to
yeah.
do it. I've been there. And then I find that, yeah, I've been there. I guess everybody deals with it differently. The other thing is that what we're doing a lot, for me, because Jared changes his voice and shit. So when he comes in and he plays that Shoresy guy, even though I know what's going to happen, I find it really funny. And for me, a lot, Tasya, I'm talking a lot. We're done now. I find when I'm doing Hitch, I'm doing a friend, one in particular, but if there's a few people at home I'm drawing from, and I find them really funny guys. So that kind of like Hitch, just don't have a care in the world. I don't know if that's because they don't want to have a care or they're careless, but whatever. I find a lot of humor in them. So often before I'm doing it, I'm picturing Fonts, my buddy Tony Fallow, doing it. It hits me in a really funny way. Anyway, point is, I had a blast, and I'm sure you did. Thank you for doing this today. I mean, on the show, not on this. I hope you had a decent time on Tales with Tiara. I told you a half hour. We've been going an hour and 2 minutes, but what are friends for?
Oh my God, this has been so much fun. I hope to come back, Terry, and talk to you. Maybe after the season airs, we can have like a little group, me, you, and like the girls, or who.
I would love to do that. First of all, I want to see you guys over here in Newfoundland. I think you'd love it. And in the summer, I'm going to try to get some sort of a, maybe a one-night show or something. Maybe do up a skit or maybe something at the George Street Festival. Just an excuse to get you guys over here. Get your flight paid for. Maybe put you up in a hotel and do something. That's going to happen sooner than later. I'd love to see you over here.
Yes. Absolutely.
And lastly, Tasya, July, Penny Lane Ryan's going to be playing on Team Newfoundland. We're playing against Team Quebec. July 5th, we're going to come up a few days early if you're in the area. And August 17th, I'm going to be in Victoria, BC for a charity golf tournament if you're going to be out that way.
Gosh.
Yeah. I'd love to check out your neck of the woods with you in it.
Would love that too.
Thank you. It's been a blast. Tasya Teles, thanks very much, not only for your friendship and for your time, but for your impact on my life as an actor. I really mean that. You've meant a lot, more than you know. I'm positive of that. So thank you, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Terry. Love you so much.
Love you. We'll see you later. We'll catch you on the rebound.
Yes.
And there you have it, folks. There you have it, folks. Tasya Teles, one of my real good friends, and sometimes you come across people in life that you don't expect to, and you might not seem that you have a lot in common, but it turns out that you certainly do. She's not only a great actress and great teammate, I will say that, but a great friend now, so thanks a lot, Tasya. Folks, we'll be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR. Lots of great guests coming up. Tessa Bonham, I believe, next week. If we can work that out, and if not, we're going to have Paul Romanuk on the show, and Paul's interesting for a lot of reasons. A sports broadcaster that I guess a lot of Canadians would know him from hockey, but he's done a lot more than that. And right now he has a podcast called The Walrus Was Paul, and it's all about the Beatles. So I'd love to pick his brain about sports, hockey, music, and the like. In any case, I'll be back soon. If you're downtown St. John's, why not check out? If you want to have a beer, go to the Bull and Barrel. Go to TJ's Pub. Go to Rob Roy Confusion. Check out Greensleeves for sure, my favorite watering hole. The Martini Bar and the Bull and Barrel, the best little rock and roll bar on the planet. Check out those places, folks. If you're down there, and I certainly will be this weekend, head to, if you're going to go for a bite to eat, why not go to Merchant Tavern, Blue on Water, or Wedgwood Cafe. If you're going to work out and you're in St. John's, why not do it at Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane. Strength and balance for the body and mind. Ryan Power Conditioning. Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations in St. John's. One is on Torbay Road and one's on Kenmount Road. Live, laugh, lube, and Pitbull Pain Relief. PitbullPainRelief.com. The pain sticks that just don't quit. I use them every day. True Hockey, take what's yours. Folks, I'm out of here. We're on YouTube now. Check us out. Back in just a few days with more Tales with TR. Catch you guys on the rebound. I'm out of here.